Hello everyone, and now welcome to Game 2 here on Ikilon Waste between GanGFuBanda and ForGG. We see ForGG spawning as the blue Terran player on the top left-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, on the bottom right, we have GanGFuBanda spawning as the orange Protoss. You know what, I really don't know how to say his name properly, but it just sounds so cool, GanGFuBanda, that I gotta say it this way. Unless someone wants to correct me, it's his name now. Alright, let's take a look at what the strategies will be. GanGFuBanda losing out against a Marine Marauder Viking push, not really having the size storm to deal with the sheer amount of bio and Vikings that we saw on the field. So GanGFuBanda currently in the hole 1-0 in this series. As we now move on to Game 2, and we'll see what both of these players are gonna learn. So far, GanGFuBanda, I keep on saying Kung Fu Panda, GanGFuBanda, still sitting off over here. It looks like he's going to be doing the same exact build order that we saw in the previous game. We should see double assimilators coming into play, and then he's going to try and get 2 workers on each of those mineral patches. Meanwhile, ForGG actually changing things up and trying to make sure that he has good sight on his own base. That's the reason why the supply depot is built off over here, and then the barracks is built off over here. It is often very easy for Protoss players to execute drops on the corners of this very, very large open space. Generally, the more space you have to protect, the larger the holes are in your map, and the faster you have to respond in every situation. You can see that ForGG is currently upgrading that to an orbital command. Meanwhile, down over here, GanGFuBanda is already running off of 2 assimilators. Number of workers on each is currently sitting at 2, and we are now warping in that cybernetics core. Now, is GanGFuBanda gonna once again go for a Nexus as his 3rd building, or will he try and change things up? This is one of those things where you need to keep a close eye on the number of probes on gas. If you see that there's only 2 workers on each of that gas, you know that he's going to be spending some gas already on the mothership core and that warp gate tech, so you know that he's not very much committed into a very heavy tech build yet. So it looks like he should be following this up with a Nexus here in just a moment. Yes, there's the Nexus already being placed down. I believe the mothership core should be coming in right behind this. There we go. And now, once we are getting into 3 workers on each of these bases, or each of these assimilators, we are going to start to see perhaps either a Stargate or Twilight Council, or Twilight Council. So far, we are looking at the SCV making its way down off over here. In just a moment, we can see a very heavy barracks production, deciding to forgo the reactor this time around. Instead, he invested much more into SCVs, didn't even bother to get the refineries. So he's going to be using sole marine production without gas for a little while, as we just now see 3 workers on each of these refineries back at home. So far, there is that robotics facility. The other option here, is he going to perhaps go for an early observer, or is he going to try and play it a little bit riskier? He could try and go for immortals, he could try and go for warp prism, but all of those tactics are pretty much playing in the blind right now. He has to almost blind pick against his opponent until he can get an observer out on the other side of the field. The Stalker is up on the high ground and does spot a handful of Marines, decides to back off right there. Oh, there's an SCV. Oh, could he get the SCV? It looks as though the SCV could get taken down. No, SCV survives with 5 hit points and will be able to drop off those minerals and whistle while he works. 1 sentry, 1 mothership core here. We are going into that observer, as I mentioned. And perhaps GanGFuBanda wants to go for a faster robotics base for the Colossus in order to deal with the sheer number of Marines that we're already seeing. You don't necessarily need the extended thermal lance range at this time, since there are really not that many units. The Marauder getting in some easy shots right there. The Stalker, however, is slightly faster and will be able to run all the way back home without having to worry about very much. You can see there is that observer now overhead. We are going into a double tech lab with 1 reactor. We are now training up Stim, and most likely we'll be training up Combat Shield when the time comes. But that is a good number of Marines and Marauders to deal with only a Sentry and a Stalkers to fight this off. This is not looking good. However, the Mothership Core is always very, very strong, and there we go. There's a force field, but now what is going to happen here? All right, there is that Photon Overcharge trying to commit to that fight right there. Make sure that his opponent is extremely, extremely close. And now, ForGG is a little bit in trouble. Let's take a look at the overall army supply, 21 to 17. So yes, actually a smaller army for GanGFuBanda, but all of a sudden after that little bit of a snipe right there, those Marines and all of those units are going to have a very bad day. Zealot now trying to engage here. You can see that they're falling back and forth. There goes one poor Zealot getting shot in the back of the head. And it looks as though these handful of Marines are going to try and sneak away once again. It looks as though it's not going to be that successful. There's another force field. One Marine does get stuck there, and it looks as though the Stalkers would want to chase, but unable to follow up. 65 compared to 57. Overall worker count, 43 to 42. And let's take a look at the production tab. You can see 4 Marines being trained at a time. In addition to the medevac, the concussive shell, it looks like ForGG is on a ball at this point, and it is now time for GanGFuBanda to really engage and do a bit of damage. You can see inside the space there's pretty much an open smorgasbord for all of those Zealots and Stalkers to easily slice and dice. There's that Twilight Council also coming in as well, so we could be going into High Templars in just a moment, the Templar Archives. Meanwhile, that Widow Mine drop that we saw in Game 1 that didn't do very much, it looks like it will be repeated here in Game 2, and actually no, in Game 1, ForGG was actually very successful with that Widow Mine drop, and now there you go, there is one Widow Mine, there's some Marines, and this is going to be a very bad day. There's the shot right there, the Widow Mine, only getting 1 kill there, as we're now looking for perhaps where this Widow Mine, when this Widow Mine will attack next. There is an observer now being trained, and we are also warping in at 2 Zealots on the north side. That may get loaded up into the Warp Prism before it tries to do another drop. Alright, there you have it. The Zealots are ready to go. GanGFuBanda gonna make its way over, try and drop some Zealots. Meanwhile, the Marines are making their way down to try and take down these destructible rocks. If they go into this no man's land right here to try and take down these rocks, GanGFuBanda has an observer here, so he will know that his opponent is shooting down these rocks, and he'll be able to unload and warp in extra units very, very quickly, and perhaps take the advantage that way. Alright, there you have it. You can see the Marines are attempting to target practice down against this rock tower. It will get taken down. The Marines are now perhaps trying to run back. It looks as though the Protoss Warp Prism is not going to be unloading any units as of yet, as we see all the units still looking to back off. Hallucinated Phoenix does a quick flyby there. It looks like the Vikings are going to try and take it down. Not going to be worth very much of anything, as we're looking at this Warp Prism off to the north. And this base is very, very much ripe for the picking. If he just goes in right now, he would deal so much damage. You can see him off to the corner right there, hoping that he moves, he could just really start tearing through his opponent. But right now, ForGG is in an absolute dominating control of this game, as we're looking now at Marines, Marauders, and no Widow Mines at all, coming in for a drop again. All right, do we see the drop? Yes, all the Marines are right there. Yes, they're just beyond the fog of war, and there you go, the Colossus quickly taken down. And this might look like it's going to be a very, very quick 2-0 loss for GanGFuBanda. And ForGG just having a field day with him so far, but still seeing a lot of solid play coming out from GanGFuBanda if he can perhaps make a bit of a play on the far side. Zealots quickly getting cleaned up against cautionary force of ForGG. You can see now a couple of unpowered buildings off to the side as well. This Nexus still continuing to work overtime and try to get everything into position. There you go. There is another engagement again. Zealots will get taken down. There it goes, as we can see one poor Marauder and Marine. One of them flips off over the edge, and the medevacs now retreat and return with the rest of this attacking force. and this might be it. This attacking force is now extremely scary. Those Vikings pretty much going unanswered, and now just going to go ahead and go into ground mode. That's not very smart against Immortals, but with so many Marines following this up, it doesn't really matter. Alright, also, it looked as though there was no EMP shockwave. We could see a Psystorm here in just a moment, and what is happening next? It looks like GanGFuBanda is just having an absolute bad day. There goes a Psystorm, there goes another. More units are now taken down. An Archon trying to merge, and there is the GG. Well played. So game 2 going in favor of ForGG. Please stay tuned for game 3.